Okay, good evening. Today is October 22nd, 2015. This is a meeting of the Hyde Park Central School District Board of Education. We are at Violet Avenue School tonight. May I have a motion for executive session to discuss confidential matters pertaining to the employment or and future employment of a particular person, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. We are now in executive session.
So moved?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. We're now in open session. At this time, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no modifications to the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as listed here on board docs, please?
So moved?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Oops, sorry. Thank you. And that brings us to Pride.
Okay. Well, in a minute, we'll have some formal pride. From time to time, we do have a desire and a reason to have something so formal, we actually put it on the agenda. In the meantime, I just wanted to mention that our girls and boys soccer teams made it to the playoffs. I actually got to see the boys soccer playoffs, at least a part of it, over at Highland. The girls volleyball team had a spectacular senior night. I know Debbie was there too, winning 3 games in a row against Wallkill. Was it Wallkill? Yeah. And no? Highland. Thank you. And so again, our athletic season is winding down, but last week, in addition to some of the playoffs, Jessica Schrodel won the Mahal girls tennis singles. Katrina Ackerman and Kelly Wilson competed as a team in doubles, and the 3 ladies all went on to the sectional tennis tournament this past Tuesday. We had the Mahal Golf Championships, and 3 of our golfers, varsity boys golfers, made it to the sectional golf tournament that is held in the spring. That is Jeffrey Peters, Matt LaFaltz, and Zachary Plombeck. I will say Jeffrey Peters is going to go far.
Yeah,
He's an incredible golfer. I'd like to take some lessons from him myself. I've got to visit them out on the course. So good luck to them in the spring. The boys and girls soccer sectionals will be tomorrow, and the girls swim team will be competing in the county championships on Saturday, And our cross-country team will be competing in the Mahal Cross Country Championship next Friday at Mills Mansion. Our student board member will certainly be competing in that, and I encourage everybody to root for Garrett. It should be a spectacular event. This morning's chamber breakfast, the guest speaker was Luigi Coppola from the Claudio Cares Foundation, and so that was a great presentation, and it was publicly announced that this year's fundraisers from the Claudio Cares Foundation will go to a brand-new technology iMac lab at the high school. That'll happen at the end of the year. And coincidentally, in the newspaper was a great article about our students who really work tirelessly to help out in the Claudio Cares initiative. And there's a picture of Luigi with several of our students, including Garrett is right there in the picture. So thank you to in the picture, and I'm sure there are many, many other students, but Rachel Sanford, Gabby McLean, Garrett Burnett, Zach Schiffer, Kayla O'Grady, and Alex Pasikas. We had several of our principals, including 3 of our elementary principals, behind bars this week. There's a nice shot of them in their prison garb. They were raising money for muscular dystrophy, so thank you to them. Check out our Facebook and our website to see some of them in stripes. Our Harvest Pops concert is next Wednesday at 7 o'clock, a spectacular event. And the musical, it's not a musical, our fall drama is titled The Musical Comedy Murders. What's that? Of 1940. And this past week, they performed a shortened version of that at the AARP meeting to our seniors. So thanks to the students and the theater parents and the director for bringing them to the seniors, and the play is scheduled for November 13th and 14th.
I have a question. Dan and I were both born in 1940. Did that get us in free, or do we, no? No, not, okay, it was just a thought. It was a...
What's more significant than that? It's a keystone year, too.
Yeah.
We're both turning 21.
Well, I think you get complimentary tickets, right, Deb?
Yeah, they're being printed.
Yeah.
Just joking.
And that's it for the informal. And so at this time, we would like to bring Debbie St. Ange up to our podium. Doug will join me. And I don't know, did you have your plaque with you? That's okay.
Why don't you stand on this side?
Okay.
The camera's over there.
Here we go. Hi, camera.
I want to be behind all
Our
the
viewing audience. Well, it is certainly an honor and a privilege to recognize Debbie St. Ange. The Mid-Hudson School Study Council has an award ceremony every year, and they have several categories from administrators to clerical to board members, and this year they opened up a new category, and that was parent volunteers. And a nanosecond, and I said, oh, Debbie St. Ange. It was just, we've got to do this. We have to nominate her. Debbie is extraordinary. I don't mean to embarrass you. So we had a board meeting that night. We had a district leadership team meeting that night. So Steve and Doug were able to go with one of our building principals, and I understand your family was there, and she was honored and recognized in front of probably 600 people, and we were thrilled to nominate you. I'm going to try not to read my notes, and then I'll let Doug speak. Debbie volunteers in every single one of our schools, regardless of whether or not her children are there. Chess club, she's done soccer. Oh, I brought the wrong sheet of paper over. But my first encounter was bumping into Debbie in the back room of the high school where her children no longer attended, volunteering as a chess club advisor for our students, and she does that in all of our buildings. She's an extraordinary Girl Scout leader who has helped several of our students get their silver awards. She's helped out on the fields, in the classrooms. And again, it's extraordinary because most parent volunteers volunteer in the spaces where their children are, and you have never limited yourself to that. You've given to everybody in the district, and that's why we nominated you. And Doug, I don't know if you'd like to say a few words?
Yeah, first I'd like to say, for those of you who have been to the award dinner, the food was actually recognizable. That's going somewhere, because the last time it wasn't. But I've known Debbie for a while. Our children are good friends. It was always the Tim and Tim all through school. This is a woman that not only does she volunteer, but she multitasks while she's volunteering. She could be at the lunchbox knitting while somebody was serving, and then go from there directly to somewhere else. It's, you know, I'm in awe of how much she can do in such a little time. So the district really appreciates you, and I hope you had a good time.
I did have a good time.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to everybody. I know I really enjoy working with everybody's kids. I think it's really cool to see them grow and the different things I do with them. It's just kind of giving them in a safe environment the ability to maybe stretch themselves. And with chess club, they're trying new games, they're interacting with each other. I know with the Girl Scouts and the Silver and Gold Awards in the district, it's really good to give the young leaders an opportunity. They really love the schools and they want to give back. So it's nice to have that support where, okay, yeah, they may not do it perfect, but they're really giving back to the schools, and we've had some lovely things come out of it. So I really appreciate that support, because these are our kids, they're our future, you know, just like Garrett's over there, he's our future. So it's nice to see the Hyde Park School District supporting them, and it's, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Again, the outdoor classroom at Netherwood, the courtyard garden at the high school, those were Silver Award projects. And as an IBMer, Debbie is
Right,
a role model for
Engineers.
women in engineering. And so in addition to all this volunteering, she's an engineer for IBM. So
Right.
it's extraordinary, really.
The one thing I would point out, for engineers, I took over as the coordinator from Debbie in the mid-'90s, and she's still doing it, you know, so it's Engineers Day has been, it's a big event for the kids. Everybody loves it, so, and it's not just a passing thing with Debbie, that she's been doing it for, gosh.
I'm old, and as of Tuesday, I'm a grandparent, so that's exciting too.
Ah, cool, all right.
On behalf of the district around here. Okay, I'll let you go next on the agenda.
I don't know if you have anything about.
I am. So it is, next week is Board Member Appreciation Week, and each year we like to take a few minutes to personally thank our board members for their volunteer service. I know last year when I said it, when I talked about what the board members do, there were some jokes afterwards saying, Greer, don't share that much, you'll scare anybody away from becoming a board member. But I will say that this is a very dedicated Board of Education, the most dedicated Board of Education I've ever seen. They are well prepared for every meeting. They are supportive in the good times. They are supportive in crisis. It is a fantastic board. It does take an effort to go through the board packets, to ask the right questions, to do the right probing, and every one of them are prepared for every meeting, and it is an honor and a privilege to work with these 7 volunteers. And so in recognition, each year Debbie and I sit down, and Debbie did the goodie bags, and then we say, well, what can we do this year? So we did, we thought these were really cool things. It's a proud school board member. Do you have to take that up? Take this. Yep. And then it's, you can use it for your car. They're cargo carriers. And they're collapsible. And now that we're paperless, you can stick your laptop in. It was like a little statue or something. So, again. That's kind of cool. And we have a cake that will make sure everybody gets a piece on the way out. And again, thank you for your service. And several of the board members are here on second, third, fourth terms, and some, even Kevin is a returnee. So thank you all so much. Round of applause for our volunteers.
So we had it here at the gym so that we could fit through the big doors?
After the cake.
The big heads.
All right. Okay. Okay, that
Oh, boy.
brings us to, we got anything else?
Just a few things. The Children's Health and Safety Expo is this Saturday, run by Emergency One. Several of our staff members also volunteer at that day. It's a community event. Lauren Colicchio, if I said her last name right, our food service director, has been with us a short time, and she's come up with a lot of new and creative things. They're having a new menu item each month, which is great, a healthy choice, just to test some new dishes. And something that she instituted this year is a fall decorating contest in all of our kitchens, and there will be judging tomorrow, and we hope to post some pictures on Facebook and the website. October 20th was a super busy night. It was college night. In addition to the volleyball game, it was college night at the high school, well attended, extremely well organized, and informative for the parents. We had some students also participate in that. And on October 20th at Haviland Middle School, the PTA sponsored an internet safety night assembly, and they had the assembly for the students during the day and opened it up for parents that night. And last but not least, later on, we'll talk about our subcommittees, but the district leadership team that's doing coherence planning, we did get our student members, and they came to the last meeting, and that's Kayla O'Grady, Joey Colazio, and Nate Craig are now on our district leadership team. So welcome addition. We're trying to expand to include more students in decision-making.
Do you want to say anything about the tour that we took? Or?
Oh, yeah, well, sure. Okay. We had the opportunity to tour Doug and I had the opportunity to tour the old psychiatric center on Route 9. There's a project called Hudson Heritage, a huge developer who has purchased the property and has extraordinary plans for the property, and inclusive in the plan for Phase 2 is residential dwellings. And should this all come to fruition, we would receive hopefully some more students in our school district, but it will start out with a big draw box store. They didn't identify a hotel, kind of a restaurant row, a lot of open and park space, the ability to connect trails. It will connect with the walkway over the Hudson, and it's a short walk to the train station. The designs are really
nice,
magnificent. Yeah. Bittersweet to go see the old psychiatric center. They will preserve the administrative building, and the grounds are beautiful. It was really bittersweet to see the decay of the existing buildings that, when they were built in the early 1900s, were spectacular. So kind of a neat tour, and it was a beautiful day to go poking around in a place that I haven't seen since I was 14. So
Big bucks.
Big dollars.
Big
yeah.
bucks. They have to take every building down other than the administration building, and they all have asbestos in them. So, big expense. But wonderful plan. Plans look great. Okay. Deanna, we now have Violet Avenue Elementary School presentation with principal. And before we start, it's always nice to see so many of the staff here. So thank you, ladies, for being here.
And gentlemen.
And gentlemen, sorry.
Clicker is working. Let's see. I just need to turn it on and then it will work. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Violet Avenue. It's nice to have all of you here, and it is nice to have so many staff members each year here to support. It's so much easier to talk when you have so many friendly faces, so thank you. We will start. I'll talk a little bit more about our 75th later on in the presentation, but I do want to start by telling you the pictures on the front, or the first slide is a celebration, some pictures from our 75th anniversary, which is this year. So on October 5th, we had our celebration of that day, and it was a really nice day. I don't know if Ger's already been able to share some of that with you in our last board meeting, but it was a really nice day. We were worried because the hurricane was on its way here for a short period of time, but it turned out to be a beautiful day where we got to celebrate with the kids and with the staff and with a tremendous amount of community leaders were here to support us. So it was a really nice day. We were officially presented with our plaque on that we are now on the Historic Register of Historic Places, and that is, there's a picture of it there, but it is on the front of the building now, under one of the original windows where FDR stood and why they stayed original, so we thought it was only fit that it be there. And it was a nice flat stone to put it on. But it is finally there, which is really nice to have that day to celebrate with the kids and have us recognized in that way. It was also quite a treat to have David Roosevelt here to speak. The kids loved it. The fifth graders, you would have thought he was a rock star. They were so excited to meet him and shake his hand and say that they got to meet him, and they were just so excited, and it was a nice culmination to the day. So on our second slide, we have our achievement results from the New York State assessments for grades 3 through 8. To summarize it, you all have a copy of it. To summarize it, overall, we went up in 5th grade ELA, and we had a slight decrease in 3rd and 4th grade. You'll remember, though, from my presentation last year that we did have quite a jump last year in our ELA results. I was also really happy with our ELA results, our improvement on decreasing our economically disadvantaged population achievement gap. So there was some nice improvement in that area as well. For our math results, we had pretty nice improvement in all areas, grades 3, 4, and 5. And that was overall for all of the kids in the building. So some really nice growth in the area of math. We also continued to close the achievement gap for economically disadvantaged students in the area of math in all areas. So we were happy to see that improvement as our instructional next steps to keep up the momentum of what we've been able to do and the growth we've been able to help children make. We're now in our 3rd year of implementing our Common Core standards, so we're continuing to do that work and strengthen our practice around Common Core. This year, with the support of the district and yourselves, we have more support in the area of literacy through our colleagues at Generation Ready. They started their work today, actually, and it was a very nice day. She enjoyed very much being in the building and getting to work with teachers. Our data teamwork that we began last year is continuing on all half days for teacher training, so we're going to continue that work. This year so far, we've set grade level goals that are data-based. So we spent time looking at our data in both ELA and math and coming up with setting a goal and then developing instructional next steps to meet that goal. Our work for the remainder of the year will be monitoring how we're doing and if we are on track for achieving the goals that we set for ourselves for each grade level. In addition to what we've been working on this year, this summer, we had the privilege of going to sanctuary training as an administrative team. And I'm happy to say that Beatrice, who was our trainer over the summer, is going to be doing sanctuary work with the staff during our faculty meetings, for every faculty meeting for the remainder of the school year. So sanctuary, if you're not if you don't know what that is, it's a trauma-informed practice that supports students and families and our staff to impact our overall school culture. So I think it's going to be a positive support for students and for families alike.
Deanna, you skipped over your Chromebooks bullet. Yep.
Oh, and we're continuing. We have our Chromebooks. We talked about this last year at our meeting. We're continuing to use those. This year, we're going to be trying out the field assessments for New York State. We're going to be trying those on the Chromebooks this year as we move into the realm of taking state exams on technology. So it will be our first dry run at that to see how that goes. We're also implementing that in the classroom, and we've had an increase of Chromebooks for us to be able to do more of that in the classroom so more children can be on technology in the classrooms as a group to support instruction. Thank you, Greg. Our building leadership team, I have to say that our 75th anniversary was a big chore in the beginning of the year, planning that. It was, working with all of the different people who came to that celebration, it was kind of a big undertaking. So now that that is over, we're going to continue our character education work and tie that into the sanctuary that we're going to be doing through our faculty meetings. For character education, we continue to have Second Step character education program available to students. Community service is still very much a part of our school community. Classrooms do a lot of work on building community within their rooms. Our BLT work is around character education. The sanctuary is an added piece to that we're adding this year. And our 812 classes, our social emotional learning classrooms, use TCIS and zones of regulation. TCIS stands for Therapeutic Crisis Intervention System. And the zones of regulation is a cognitive behavior approach that helps children with self-regulation. So understanding their emotions and how to be able to regulate their emotions throughout the day. So all of those programs are available to our students to support them so that they can be successful. Our Violet Avenue activities, one of the highlights, as you can see by my picture choice in the center. This year, every year we do PARP, which stands for Parents as Reading Partners. We're kicking that off next Friday on October 30th. So in addition to our Harvest Festival that we have every year, we'll also be kicking off PARP with our families. This year, we very much wanted to have an author come and work with the children like we've had in the past. We had to do a little bit of fundraising in order to do that. And I'm happy to report this evening that we have raised the money necessary to do that. And this year we're lucky to have David Adler come, who is a very well-known children's author. So we're really excited to have him come and be able to work with the kids. So the plan, similar to other authors that have visited, he will do assemblies with all the children that are appropriate for their grade levels. And he'll also be doing a lunch with the students, where the students will have a more intimate time with the author, and we'll be able to ask questions about what it's like to be a writer. How do you live a writing life? How do you come up with ideas? What do you do when you get stuck? They come up with really great questions, and it's an opportunity for them to have more of a dialogue instead of just a presentation. So we're so excited to have him soon on November 16th. If you're available and you want to come see him, it should be great. I mentioned our Harvest Night. We will be doing winter workshops again this year, which always takes place the day before kids go on Christmas break. It's an opportunity for them to participate in a lot of different workshops the day before they go on break. Our fire prevention classes are beginning soon with Fairview Fire Department. You'll see from our posters that our fifth graders created in the back of the gymnasium. We'll be collecting for UNICEF again as part of our charity work. Our district continues to have pen pals, and we're collecting food for food bank donations. PARP I mentioned. Our buddy reading with our kindergarten and fifth grade students. WRWD hopefully is coming back again this year to have our fifth graders participate on the radio saying our pledge. Our science fair will continue. Hopefully we'll get to do Project Fala again. And our book fair and book swap is part of our PARP program, which will start next month. For parental and community involvement, our 75th has been our biggest event so far this year. We were lucky that we had politicians from both Hyde Park and Town of Poughkeepsie here to join us. With the help of Greer, we were able to get David Roosevelt to come and speak to the children a little bit about the history. And it was a nice day of kind of bringing everyone together and having the children involved in such a nice ceremony. We also continue to work really closely with the Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department to support our safety initiatives, the food pantry, UNICEF. We have several volunteer readers that come in to read weekly, Mr. Heater being one of them, comes every Friday. And we have our grandparents program. We have 3 grandparents right now in the building. We will, in the spring, have our IBM Engineering Week volunteers that come in. Central Hudson, our coat drive, which is going on now in the lobby. And we continue to have a tremendous amount of Marist volunteers and students that come to learn side by side with teachers here at Violet Avenue. We continue to support Marist in their Reading 3 initiatives. So their Reading 3 students come with us and work in the classroom, and numerous observers and student teachers. So we continue to do that work with Marist as well. Right.
Thank you.
And that is all of my slides. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Any questions? I think I'd just like to say that Friday is my favorite day of the week to be here.
Yeah.
And everybody should. No, really. It's everybody should get an opportunity to come into a classroom and interact with the kids. It's really, it means a lot. So.
Thank you, Mr. Heater. It means a lot to have you come and support us in everything. Concerts and reading, and I have to say there's probably not one event that you're not present for. So we thank you for your support because it means a lot to us as well. Okay.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
That brings us to, you want to introduce?
Yes. We have the privilege tonight to have Dr. Richard Hooley with us. Richard is the new district superintendent for Duchess Boces. He hails from Orange County as an experienced superintendent with a background in several states and larger districts across the country in administration and superintendency. So I personally have had the opportunity to spend some time with Dr. Hooley and am thrilled that he took the helm at Duchess Boces, so welcome.
Thank you. You're very kind. I will also say I was at the Mid-Hudson School Study Council, and someone sitting at our table from Duchess Boces went on and on about Ms. St. Ange and her volunteer work. So it's very nice to see you again, and congratulations. So again, my name is Richard Hooley. I'm very excited about this new opportunity. Thank you for allowing me tonight to come and speak with you and introduce myself. As background, as Greer already said, I began my career as a high school English teacher, and I have worked as an administrator in 5 districts in 3 states, North Carolina, New York, and Arizona. And I was, again, as Greer pointed out, for the past 13 years, superintendent of schools for the Valley Central School District in the town of Montgomery in Orange County. Again, I spent some time with Dr. Reichek over the summer to try to get to know and understand some of the concerns, interests, and just really to get to know the district of Hyde Park. And I look forward to getting to know members of the board and the wider community. Currently, the Duchess BOCES enrolls about 157 Hyde Park students. I believe we have 123 in the Career and Tech program. In the Beta Alternative High School, we have about 5 students. And in the Saul Point Center and other district placements, I think we have about 29 students. So just so you know how you're represented with us. Like Dr. Ryshek, I invite you to call me if I can be of help in any way. I also hope you will see a greater BOCES presence at some of your district events. It certainly sounds like there's plenty going on in Hyde Park. I don't know how we could, we'd be spreading ourselves thin if every school district is like this, but it's very exciting and fun to come to your meeting, and I hope that we'll be seeing one another again at events here and elsewhere. So thanks again for the time. Congratulations to the board for Appreciation Week, and thanks for the time. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take a stab at it.
Any questions?
Great, no questions?
No, I just, all the years I've been on a school board, I appreciate the time you took to come and introduce yourself, rather than just kind of, remaining, what a lot of people don't know is that the district superintendent's the commissioner's representative in the county. And, there is kind of an interaction with the school district. And years ago, many, many years ago, when things were a little rough here and we were transitioning in superintendents, we needed the district superintendent to meet with the board and talk about options. And, so there's an important role beside, there's an educational leadership role that you play, obviously, with the BOCES, but you have a wider responsibility that a lot of people probably don't recognize. But I do appreciate you taking the time to come see us. I think that's a very nice thing to do, and I thank you for that.
Not at all.
I would echo Kevin's comments. It's good to see you here. And I would add, I'm a huge advocate for BOCES. Actually, I'm a graduate many years ago of Upstate BOCES program. And I would really hope that maybe we could look at some expansion. I mean, I think there's I think BOCES is an undervalued opportunity. And I would really encourage and offer my time and effort, if there's any way that I could serve to help promote the program and develop the program. I've had the opportunity just recently of speaking to some of the teachers, the instructors you've got there. I mean, you've got the right people. I think we just need to, keep pushing it a little bit more.
Well, thank you. We are in the process of doing some strategic planning for the BOCES, and I'm sure there'll be some opportunities for you to see and become involved in some activities to try to make a more prominent presence in the community, and we certainly are excited about some of that. So stay tuned. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Okay. At this time, may I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
Oh, you still
I'm
got
sorry.
another presentation.
Board of
They're
Education.
still trying not to do that summer school report. It's already snowed.
Oh, right. Well, I have to
She's
mess
here,
up at
she's
least one thing.
ready.
As people may remember, we did postpone this from the last meeting because we really wanted Mary Ann here, and so we're happy that you are here tonight.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm especially happy that she's here tonight. So it is our pleasure to speak with you tonight about the FDR Summer School program from this past summer. Summer seems like quite a ways away already. But I'll start by giving you just a little bit of a reminder of the history, and for those in the audience that don't know, for several years we had a Summer Regents Prep program that ran for just 2 weeks right before the August Regents exam, and it gave students who had failed the Regents in June the opportunity to come for some review prior to taking that exam in August. And 2 years ago now, literally at the last board meeting of the school year, I came to the board and pleaded the case of a need for us to have our own summer school. Students who needed a full summer school program historically had gone either to Poughkeepsie, some to Our Lady of Lourdes, but there was no local, county-wide program available to them. And I'll just turn and look at our new colleague at BOCES, just to plant that little seed for you, speaking of program expansion. So I'm glad you're here tonight. But the board could not have been more supportive on that evening in June when I came and asked for a fair amount of money and the opportunity to very quickly create a summer school program. We did that, and we had a successful summer based on some of our criteria. We felt that we served our kids well in a really short period of time. Fast forward to last year, we had a little bit more planning time, and we really expanded the program and also collapsed the program. So while 2 years ago we ran summer Regents Prep side by side, summer school for credit recovery, last year we put students together where we could. So my colleague to my right, Mary Ann Silke, took on her first administrative role in the district as our summer school principal, and I really need to publicly thank her probably many, many, many times because she did an outstanding job. So we're here tonight to share the results of that. She has done most of the work for this presentation, so I'm going to let her take the lead. I'll supplement here and there and then wrap things up. So I do want to thank the board again for the continued support to really take care of some of our needy students, both in terms of credit and in terms of coming back around to that challenge of the Regents exam. And I'll turn it to Mary Ann.
And while you're turning that, I just want to also reiterate that when we didn't have a summer school program, if our students went to Poughkeepsie or Our Lady of Lourdes, they had to pay and they had to provide their own transportation. So what we've done now is bring it in-house, provide transportation, and at no cost to families. So
Yes, thank
I don't know if that's, I didn't remember that being in the presentation, so I thought I'd
Thank you.
say
No, that's an important point.
Yeah, that's a huge piece.
Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to present these results from summer school. So summer school ran this past summer from July 13th to August 11th, and there were 2 periods per day, approximately 90 minutes each. And course offerings were made with 2 groups of students in mind. The first group of students that we considered strongly were 9th graders who had failed courses, because the research shows that 9th grade year is the most important year, and failure during 9th grade year can be a strong indicator of dropout. So we wanted to make sure that we were offering courses that 9th graders could take for credit recovery if they hadn't been successful during the school year. So we had Global 9, we had Algebra 1, and we had English 9, and we had a strong enrollment in those 3 courses. The other group of students we thought strongly about in our planning meetings were students that were making the march toward graduation, but maybe had failed a course along the way and needed credit recovery in those courses. So we also made sure that there was offerings for students that fell into that category as well. We also offer GradPoint. So GradPoint is an online learning system for those of you that are not familiar. And the GradPoint courses were offered based on student need and whether or not the course was actually offered by GradPoint. So students worked during the regular summer school hours in the library. They were supported by the library media specialist at FDR, who is Tracy Lee Ansley, that did a wonderful job with the students. The students were also supported by a teacher of record who was instrumental in modifying course materials if that was necessary for summer school, and also grading written work. So with GradPoint, this summer school is not the first time GradPoint was used, and GradPoint has yielded some mixed results. I think Cora wanted to say a little bit about that.
I'll just add with GradPoint that we've had licenses for a couple of years now, and what Mary Ann's referring to is that we've kind of limped along with really wrapping our arms around making the best possible use of it, identifying which students for whom GradPoint is the most appropriate and helpful. One of the things that we found over the summer was that it certainly was not as simple as to say, oh, you need English, here you go, here's GradPoint, Tracy will help you with technical issues, but in terms of content, you're on your own. We did have a teacher of record for each subject attached, but even there, we found the need for our content directors to take a look at what was in GradPoint, make some important decisions about just how much of that work was most appropriate and necessary in the time that students had in order to legitimately earn the credit and complete work that we felt was appropriate. So we're going to continue looking at that, not just for summer, but for the school year as well. But it is significant to say that using that service, which is very low cost to the district, and using the support of our library media specialist, we did have all of these students who took courses. Most of them, as you can see, earned the credit. I will say, too, that the reason that we have the librarian during the summer is that as a summer school, we are required to have a library media specialist on hand. So this was a really good way to make use of her expertise and time in a summer school program.
And I'll just add to that, because it's a piece of that 3 of these GradPoint students graduated as a result of having the opportunity to earn recovery credit through GradPoint, and 1 will graduate in January because of having had the opportunity. So we also offered Regents preparatory courses, as Cora said. These courses were offered to assist students who had successfully earned credit during the school year, but were unable to pass the state exam. So although not all students who prepped passed the August administration of the Regents, greater than 50% of students who prepped improved by 10 points or more, perhaps increasing their ability to pass in January or in June. This slide shows the total number of students sitting for all the exams offered in August. Many of these students were walk-ins, and their means of preparing for the exam are unknown. So in order to celebrate the efforts our summer school students made in persisting and recovering credit and coming every day in the beautiful summer weather, we decided to have an award ceremony. And the award ceremony broke from the traditional format of award ceremony where only recipients and recipients' families are invited. All of the children were invited, all of the students' families were invited. The award ceremony was well attended. The teachers were asked to nominate 3 students from each of their courses to receive academic awards. The awards were presented for academic achievement, which was highest grade in the class, most improvement, and best attitude. There were also awards given for perfect attendance, which is a big deal in the summer. So every student also received a T-shirt with an inspirational quote, and they were instructed to wear their shirts to the Regents exams as a lucky shirt and for courage. And the quote on the shirt said, it was a Winston Churchill quote, and it said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts." So the children seem to be very encouraged by the awards ceremony, and hope that's something that continues.
So I think Marianne and the staff that have worked with us over the last couple of years would agree when I say that we're still figuring this out. We are absolutely committed to providing summer support to our students. As Marianne said, there were students who graduated as a result of their participation in GradPoint. We also had students who graduated as a result of their credit recovery in the other classes. But we still are experiencing some growing pains, thinking about which space in the high school is best. How do we keep over 100 students cool during the summer in a building that is not fully air-conditioned? Which courses do we offer? Just how much support do we need to provide in classes where we have students who have struggled with attendance over the school year, who have struggled with discipline issues, who have struggled academically? It's a group who are fragile in many ways. And so how do we create just the right environment for those students, as well as those who missed the Regent score by 10 points and are just coming back for that final fix before they try again. So we're going to be spending some time starting in January, really spending the effort to think about what the best model might be. We want to continue the use of online learning, but as I mentioned, we need to explore a little more deeply whether GradPoint is it or whether there might be a better option. The awards ceremony, I think, was really important for our students. Those students were with us because they had experienced failure. They need a different message about who they are and what they can accomplish. So the fact that Marianne brought that in to the program, I think, was a highlight. And in terms of the whole mindset, what I saw this summer was one of holding students up, helping them hold each other and themselves up, and really think of themselves as successful as opposed to students who had experienced so much failure. I mentioned, the courses that we offer. We need to talk about breakfast. You've heard us over and over again talk about the population that we serve, the increased percentage of students in our community who are struggling economically, who depend on school for their meals. Those students are with us during the summer as well. And in addition to the heat and the experience of failure, some of them just come to school in July and August as hungry as they were in September. So we need to think about what, if anything, we might be able to do around that. We were, keeping boxes of granola bars and fruit snacks and anything we could get our hands on so that when students walked in and said, "I'm hungry," Marianne could say, "Here you go." And that's an important piece of what I think we need to consider. Because of our numbers, we were, I want to say 114.
Somewhere approximately.
About 114 students. That's a large number of students. We have not in the past had a full-time nurse at the high school during the summer. We haven't had a counselor dedicated just to all of that work that happens in preparing for summer school. We haven't had a dedicated secretary. So I'm not sure in the end what our recommendations will be, but those are some of the things that we feel we really need to pay attention to so that whatever program we offer is really viable and just builds on what we learn each summer. And again, just thank you for the support of the staff and the transportation and the administrator. All of that has meant a great deal to us, and we'll be coming back to you probably February, March, I would hope, because there may be budget implications for next year with a proposal. So questions, comments?
Yes, Cora, could you just go back to the August Regents results? And just explain that to me
Through it,
again. The
certainly.
way I'm understanding it is the low number there is, most of it is less than half are passing. But
So-
you said most of them are walk-ins?
Well,
the exams?
some. This is inclusive of both walk-ins and students who were with us for program.
Okay.
And so this would have been the students who
So do you have
earned
the
credit.
breakdown? Do you have a breakdown?
The slide before shows just the students that were with us.
Okay, okay.
So in Global 10, the number enrolled, the number passing. Just for anyone who isn't familiar with the safety net, passing of a Regents exam is 65. For students with an IEP, there is something we call the safety net that's across New York State that allows a passing score of 55. So we wanted you to see that. And then as Marianne mentioned, although not all of the students, and certainly not as high a percentage as we would like, passed, more than 50% of them did increase their score by 10% or more.
Did you have similar results the year before? This?
I would say that in global, the results were somewhat similar. U.S. history, I think we did much better the year before, and I think that's true of algebra. I will get you that, though, Gary. Please don't quote me on it.
Okay.
We can certainly get it. We have it in last year's presentation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? I just like.
Please, there's a
we did?
question.
That for the GradPoint program, I see that there's certain courses offered that are non-crucial to graduation. So is this course available to students that just want to take it for these credits?
That's a great question. So during the summer, the courses were offered for students who needed to earn an elective credit. I believe that's true for all.
There was some course in there as well, in the grad point.
Right, so either they needed credit recovery for a core course, or they needed an elective credit. But I think your question is, either during the summer or perhaps during the school year, might those courses be available for students, perhaps for things that we don't offer?
Exactly. Perhaps if your schedule didn't permit you to take an economics course, then could you during the summer perhaps continue to academically challenge yourself and take this grad point economics course or business communications that are typically offered as electives, but they just don't fit into your schedule?
Right. Thank you. That's a great question, and it is something that we're also exploring. We need to, during the school year, we're careful about not replacing an instructor, one of our teachers, with an online course. But I'll go back now more than a decade. The first time I worked with the district through my role in ABOCES with online courses was exactly what you're talking about. We had students in a district on the other side of the river who could not get health into their schedule. So we were able to provide an online environment for those students to earn their health credit. What that winds up looking like here is still under exploration, but certainly one of the reasons to have the online courses beyond credit recovery is to give opportunity for students to take courses that we simply don't offer.
Okay, so this is a possibility in the future that we might be working toward this, where students that don't need it but would like to take it would have this option as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And there's a whole range of courses.
Yeah, if I could
Please.
just add to that, especially with like language, there's only a certain number of language course offerings. I've heard of a lot of districts using online methods for, like, if you wanted to take Mandarin Chinese, Garrett, that might be like a future, offering. So we're still looking at online possibilities, because the possibilities are really endless, and they're also the wave of the future.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. I'd just like to say that I'm really pleased that you pointed out that it's not just the numbers that are important. It's what else that these courses bring to students that are struggling, and it may be just a little bit of a impetus that helps them get through the next year. So the numbers, to me, aren't as important as the program itself, so thank you very much.
Thank you for that. It's appreciated.
I did have an additional question. Is it the case that the summer school course covers the entire curriculum as thoroughly as it does during the normal school year?
No. It wouldn't be feasible, given the time that we have, to do the entire curriculum in its depth. And in most cases, in many cases, I will say, students took the course and failed it. So they've been through a year of instruction. So one of the things that the teachers do is try to identify where those gaps were, or look at those big ideas, if you will, and really then drill down to what are the specific skills. I will say for English, for example, they may not have covered all of the texts that would have been read during the school year, but you can be sure there was a huge emphasis on reading, annotating text, speaking to an argument based on having done a close reading of a text, and writing. So although not every text would have been interacted with or every assignment, the most important core skills and concepts would have been there.
Okay.
Would you say that's fair to say?
That's a good characterization.
Okay. So to repeat what I think I heard, just to confirm my understanding, the students that enrolled in these classes have already taken, and in most cases did not succeed in the course that they took in the summer.
Correct.
So this could be considered a review and enhancement of the same material. and therefore giving them a second chance at passing the course or passing the Regents.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you, ladies. Nice job.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Okay, now can I have public participation? No? At this time, may I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. At this time, we are in public participation. Anybody would like to address the board, please step to the mic over here. You know the shortest distance between 2 points, right? Oh, okay, I just...
I'm Denise Beery, and I just would like to say that I'm here representing many groups, the booster groups, the student government groups, various other people that I've spoken to this week. If you don't mind, I'm going to read. A conversation with Dr. McCarnell informed me that she has been meeting with administration without involvement from the rest of the FDR community to set up a procedure to manage the newly built concession stand at FDR, ultimately limiting the fundraising efforts of clubs and student government at athletic events. Her vision is that a stipend individual would manage the stand while Varsity Club managed the money raised, arguing that Varsity Club represents all groups. But this isn't entirely possible. Varsity Club doesn't represent the other clubs or the boosters or student government of the school. When you all asked for my help for the athletic facility vote, I spent many weekends outside of Stop and Shop, many days going door to door in neighborhoods and apartment complexes trying to get that vote passed. And the big emphasis that we made was that this facility would benefit our entire student body and community. When the vote passed without the concession stand, it was with community funds that it was eventually built. It even continues with the class of 2015 donating the ice machine, and I know that other community groups are also making donations. The classes, it's my understanding, were again asked to contribute funds towards the ticket booth. Under Dr. McCardle's new management plan, the boosters and classes in student government will not have the ability to fundraise at Mahal's events. Even the soccer booster was not given the opportunity to do concessions at their Mahal's event this week. And I know the track booster is not being given the opportunity to run a concession stand at our Mahal's. I'm sorry, lost my place. These opportunities should be open to all the boosters, all the classes, all the clubs willing to participate in a sign-up or a rotating schedule, especially if the school wishes that these groups could continue to contribute to this facility and to the school. The track booster is hoping to donate a $3,000 record board to the facility, but yet we're being denied the opportunity to fundraise at our own Mahal's event. I suggest that the athletics don't manage the concessions. I think it should be a community-based thing. I think the stipend individual or FDR somehow should manage some kind of a rotating sign-up schedule, something like that, and not just be solely given to any one club or booster. I'm not trying to pick on Varsity Club, but it is one booster, and we have many. I don't even know how many. It's true, while other school districts do have things, organizations that manage things like the concessions and stuff, under this model, this is not it. They do a rotation, and it benefits all the boosters. It's not one-sided, and it is something that all the boosters of those school districts can, participate in, not just a few. So before a decision is made, before, this is set in stone, I really hope to be invited. I would welcome the opportunity, along with, I know, the presidents of the other booster clubs, student government, and all this, to meet with you or anybody and try to come up with a solution where we can make this a community fundraising event, something that can be, there's plenty to go around. We can share the wealth here. And we need to come up with something that's a little more universal. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but I think that we deserve the right to be part of that as the community that really helped kind of get us where we are today. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else? Pat, looks like coming up.
Yes, Pat Mosier, athletic trainer for the district. As one being very involved with that concession stand, I would like to give you a little history over the years since 1941. From 1941 to 1979, we had a viable varsity club. It was really a service club. It was just run just the same way as our National Honor Society was. All right. Unfortunately, an individual took over the varsity club in '79 and really didn't do anything with it. And it just went by the wayside. All right. And at that time, and Kevin alluded to it earlier, the Board of Education really wasn't involved in that type of process, what was going on with different people wanting to fundraise or volunteer or so forth, and neither was the administration. And what happened is that people, very well-intentioned people, started going off in little areas to help out in different programs. Right? The only problem with that is that it leads to confusion, as tonight is. And over the last 5 years, I've seen a real improvement with the Board of Education here, who's really taken an interest in the people who volunteer in the community and programs, and the administration as well, to actually try to put something together that would be acceptable for everyone and work properly. The problem that I've seen over the years is that when a parent group or a parent volunteers and they put a program together to fundraise, when their son or daughter leaves, either someone's got to pick up that mantle or it just dies and someone starts again, or someone has a different vision, or someone doesn't want to let go of what they were doing and bring new people in. And it creates an atmosphere that's not really friendly or helpful. All right? My involvement in this was when I went out to the community, and most of the people who donated, which were many, and probably 95% of them were alumni, they were graduates of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So when I went to them, I talked to them about revitalizing the varsity club, revitalizing the idea of a service organization, that students got involved with their fundraising, that it wasn't parents doing it for them. Like tonight, for instance, they had to turn away kids helping the concession stand. And when Mrs. Duffy had her first varsity club meeting this year, there was over 50 kids there. It was really great to see. All right? And matter of fact, today they were out picking up a road and a road cleaning, doing service things. So that was my take, and all the people that donated said, great, I remember the varsity club, I remember what it was like, I remember how it was to be the camaraderie with the other students throughout the student body. Okay? When I started the booster club for softball, I went to the people and said, listen, I need a booster club that you ask me what do I need, not how to run my program. And I've been very fortunate with the booster club that we had, and you have seen what has been done up in front of the high school. All right? I know that Greer has been working diligently as far as trying to figure out how this whole thing is going to work. But from my side, I want the board to understand the history, how this is going about, how excited the kids are about doing it. And the one thing I would disagree greatly with is that many people have worked with Little League or soccer and had concession stands, and the big problem is that it usually fails after a while. it gets dirty, it gets old, it gets misused. All right, and that's my biggest fear about a beautiful concession stand up there now, is that if we don't have someone coordinating how it works, it's just going to turn into a shambles and an eyesore. All right? Please don't let that happen, whatever your decision is. I trust right now that the Board of Education and the administration has finally, over many years that I've seen, have finally taken an interest in making sure that something is done in a coordinated effort. I don't think we can no longer have people come to volunteer without being able to talk to the district, and the district said, we love your volunteerism, we'd love to help you wherever we can, but these are the parameters of which you have to be able to volunteer. Like I did with the softball team, just simply say, please tell me, ask me what you need, don't ask me how to run the program. All right? When the bottom line comes, the district needs to run the concession stand, the district needs to make sure that they put in place a proper way that it's upkept, and hopefully, and it's going to be tough decisions because everybody's entrenched in little areas now, and that's the shit. And someone eventually has to say, we just need to put it together. And I do want to end by really thanking. I've been here for 42 years, and in the last 5 years, a Board of Education that's actually taken an interest in the people who volunteer and how they do it, and recognize those people, and an administration that says we need to do something and that they're willing and able to do it. So hopefully that gives you a little insight of where I came from as far as getting the concession stand built, and it was 100% community people out there, and it's just amazing how many people help. But it's also really gratifying to see how many kids, they're turning kids away working in that concession stand right now. They had 9 kids there tonight, and they said, geez, we only need 6. All right, so it's nice to see that they want to get involved in being part of the solution and part of actually being involved in helping out instead of having the adults do it for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board? You can go again. Yeah, sure.
If you go up there tonight or tomorrow, next week, you'll see the ticket booth going up. And it's actually going to be a replica of the old Little Red Schoolhouse.
Cool.
So that's what it's going to be.
Built by our tech department.
Yeah.
Oh, the tech department, those kids are great, because I go there every morning with them. We're using a lot more nails to pull a lot of head ones out, but they're getting there.
As long as the fingers are in place.
Right.
I just want to point out that I couldn't agree more. I'm not at all against a centralized organization of this situation. What I'm suggesting is that it be more well-rounded, to include the possibilities. We've never had these events before. We've never had this facility before. Our student government needs to have the opportunity to be more involved in concessions because it's available now. The same with our sports. I've talked to other school districts, and they do it on a very good rotating schedule. The track team might get to have their concessions at the soccer halls. The soccer team might get to have their concessions at something else. The varsity club might get to have their I'm all about it. I would like it to be all-inclusive and to be that way. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board? In that case, may I have a motion to exit public participation, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Would anybody like to comment?
I'd actually like to, if I may.
Sure.
And then certainly anybody else chime in. So thank you, Denise, and thank you, Pat. I really just do want to emphasize this is a brand-new good problem to have. The fact that the community supported us to get this athletic facility, that in the proposal for the athletic facility was a slab, and now we have this gorgeous concession stand that was done by all the community volunteers and donations. So I just really want to reiterate that we want to thank the community, and we do want to go in the direction of continued community involvement, and this is a good problem. in any management system that we're looking at for the concession stand or the athletic facility, we're not looking at it in terms of what I would call limiting. Good management, yes. Limiting, no. I also want to clarify that while we have Mahal events, and the proposal that was on the table is to have the varsity club run the concession stand for Mahal events. We've been really clear that the Oval Office, which is a huge track invitational, the concession stand does go to the Track Booster Club. What we're looking at is that we want to make sure that there are plenty of opportunities for other groups to use the facility and to get the proceeds from the concession stand. For example, if the theater arts parents group want to host a concert or something and open the concession stand, we're not saying no to those things. We had the Relay for Life last year. Because it was also new and there was a conflict with track, I couldn't get anybody to even open or run the concession stand. That would be an opportunity for the senior class or the student government to say, you know what, at Relay for Life, you can run that concession stand. So we want to be inclusive. Our goal is not to be limiting, but we are exploring the possibility of a management system for the concession stand to protect our investment. We now have this beautiful facility at the Board of Education. We've been talking about, making sure we're, do the right thing for Department of Health and serving food. Also, just with a facility like that, you need someone to manage it. So there's the management piece, which should be centralized. And then there's the issue of how do we create something that's fair and equitable so that as we open up this concession stand, the senior class can have opportunities to raise funds through the concession stand. That when we have some tournaments, especially, the good example would be the Oval Office. That would be the Track Booster Club concession stand. So we may be looking at a system where if it is a Mahal or athletic district-sanctioned event, we would run it through the varsity club. Part of what the varsity club does is it is a service organization. It's been moving in the right direction. Every single athlete in the district benefits from the varsity club. The athletic banquet that hosts 5 or 6, at least 500 people each year recognizes every single athlete in the district, and that's one of the things the varsity club sponsors. So we are open to have some more input and conversations. We're not trying to be limiting. We are looking at a system where we need to be creative. Plenty of people can host events. Every booster club could come up with an event to host at that facility and open and get the proceeds from the concession stand. I think Denise, if I don't mean to call you out here, I'm just trying, but I think one of the things that was discouraging was to hear something like, for the Mahal track event, track boosters wouldn't get it, but for the Oval Office, they could get the concession stand. So we're trying to find that balance. And again, this is a new and good problem to have. We're willing to maybe put a meeting together to hear some input before we finalize things. That would be fair enough. Yeah, that's an excellent suggestion. And, and we'll take it from there. But I think that's all I have to say.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just say, I don't know much about this topic, but it is, it's unintended consequence. It's a new opportunity, it's a new challenge. I think it's going to be, we're not going to get it right necessarily the first year. Try to be fair to everybody as we're going through. One thing I would try would be, let's document the rationale of what we do, why, the decisions, we're going to have to put something in place going forward, document the rationale so that everybody can look back at it. Memories get short. and you can look back and say, okay, this is why we did this one, we did this one, we did this one, so that when you're changing it, you've got, at least you're not rehashing everything all over again. I mean, this could go on and on and on, but, I think just get the right people together in a group and, try to include as many organizations, and, I'm sure we'll get through it,
And let's get creative and get the kids involved.
All right, yeah.
That I happen to be the president of Varsity Club, so I'm fairly knowledgeable in what the breakdown of the concession stand works, and there's not a limitless amount of events to sell concessions at. Frankly, you can't sell concessions at a track dual meet with just 2 teams. They wouldn't be worth the time. We've tried it before, and you make something like $30 on the day. So the track team has the Oval Office, the senior class has the football games, and then the varsity club only really has the 3 Mahal soccer games and the Mahals for track, which I see as not that huge proportion of the events that goes on there, especially since varsity club does have the extremely expensive banquet at the end of the year, which does benefit every single varsity athlete, which the booster clubs would also help to benefit, whereas the banquet go for the awards and the dinner itself, and we're trying to get it so parents can be it's more affordable for parents, because previously in the past, parents haven't been able to come if they don't have the money to pay for it, because it is quite expensive. It's very elegant, and we try and keep it classy. So that I firmly believe that the 4 events that we have there at the track, or at the facilities there, should try and remain in varsity club's hands, seeming so those all are varsity sporting events. So I feel that it's appropriate that it should remain in the varsity club's hands.
Any other comments? Okay.
Just like I said, I think Perry probably said it most eloquently. Let's look at it and be inclusive with meetings and try to explain the rationale. But I think we need to make sure we consider all the options and then put together a pretty good plan so that everybody kind of understands it. So, and I know that Grill, you'll work to do that. So,
Yep.
thanks.
Good problem to have.
Yep.
Thankful for the input.
We're all good? Okay. Let's move into the board discussions on, the first one is the Town of Hyde Park collection of tax fees. That would be the fee that the town charges to collect your taxes, which is like .0014 or something, I don't know, it's a small amount, but it's still something you pay extra, so.
Yeah, so this came up at a board meeting, whether or not there was a way to, what would it look like if the board took over the tax collection for the town of Hyde Park? So I'm going to turn it over to Linda Steinberg, who did some nice work in this area, to respond to that request.
Okay.
Thank you, Linda.
Sure. So I looked at what we were currently doing. We collect taxes for 3 towns, for Clinton, Pleasant Valley, and Rhinebeck. Together, those 3 towns comprise under 15% of our total collections, but the town of Hyde Park is 68.4% of our total collections. So if we were to take this on, we would have additional costs, quite a bit actually. We have one collector currently. We pay her a stipend of $4,400 a year, and she works all year because she answers calls and responds to requests, but her busiest time is for September and October. She works 2 nights a week, Tuesday and Thursday. I think if we added Hyde Park, we'd have to collect during the day as well, so we'd have to look at hiring somebody temporarily, probably for 10 weeks, to help get ready for tax collection as well. So I was also thinking that we would need another person to help process everything. So with that, I came up with additional cost just for tax collection or tax clerks of $10,000. We would have $600 more in fees from our software company, and our bank would charge us about $600 more because we would have additional deposits. So our increased cost would be $11,200, but we would save about $800 in fees that we reimburse currently to the town of Hyde Park, so the net cost would be $10,400. So that cost would be spread out amongst the taxpayers for the whole district, not just for the town of Hyde Park, because it would be part of our budget.
And Linda, I think the revenue that the town gets is about $50,000.
Yes, last year they collected about $53,000 from our taxpayers. I estimate that this year it'll be about $55,000.
So either way, they're going to pay.
Right, and
Yeah.
I can offer some comments because of some familial history. When my wife was previously the tax collector in Hyde Park, not the school district, but the town. The other important point to know is what a lot of people don't realize is the reason why the school district collects taxes for Rhinebeck, Pleasant Valley, and Clinton, and then the town collector collects for Hyde Park and Poughkeepsie is because Hyde Park and Poughkeepsie are what are called towns of the first class. That's got nothing to do with style or anything. It's population. When your population's a certain number, in New York state law, you're called a town.
But Hyde Park is first class, though.
Yeah, of
Just
course.
saying.
But so was Clinton, Pleasant Valley, and Rhinebeck. But no, a town of the first class, which is determined by population, under the law, they have the right to collect all the taxes, and then you have to actually get permission or a town board resolution for them to give that up. You can't just say, we're going to do it. They actually have to agree to let you do it because they're a town of the first class and they have the right to collect the taxes. So that's the one aspect. Now, the history of it, and I've gone on this rant before. This happened. The previous town administration, not the current supervisor,
Mr. Martino.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a money-saving trick, and it was incredibly offensive to me because, and I spoke at the town board about it, and I spoke here because I wasn't on the school board yet. What my concern about it was, or my complaint about it was, is that, the town, at the time, my wife was not the collector anymore. She had left to take another job, so it had nothing to do with us. I could care less about the workload. What was offensive to me about it is that, the town was using it as a way of enhancing revenue and saying, well, and you're essentially, I'm kind of double paying. All of us that live in the town of Hyde Park as school district taxpayers, we pay Hyde Park town taxes. If, poof, the school district disappeared, they still need a tax collector to collect the town taxes, the county taxes, the fire district taxes, the library taxes, and all the special district taxes that they have. The position's there anyway, and they have to have the position, and it's not like they have the position there all year and then, a big hunk of the year is because, they got the school tax collection. There's no, other than and that money's actually reimbursed by the school district, any expenses out of pocket like the mailing, et cetera. The rest of it is, there really is no expense. They're paying that person anyway, or to maintain that office anyway, because they collect things all year long. They've got water bills they're collecting. They've got they have to collect the town, the county, and the other property taxes. That person's there doing that anyway, and so essentially they're kind of hitting us twice as Hyde Park town taxpayers by saying, we've got this position that's in the town budget already. Now you're going to, when it's time to pay your school tax bill, by the way, you'll be paying, what is it, 0.02%? Or 0.02? 002.
Yes.
Yeah, 0.002% of your tax bill. So, on mine, I think it's almost like $50, I think, or something.
2%.
Oh, 0.2%. Oh, I'm sorry, 0.2% of the tax bill, yeah. And it was like, it's like, I'm actually paying whatever the search, I can't remember, my taxes go to escrow, I have no idea what the heck it is, haven't seen the receipt yet. But it's like, so I get to pay for the privilege of paying my bill. So I've been on this rant forever. It was supposed to be a one-time trick, and unfortunately, town finances are the way they are. They've maintained the trick. They certainly know where I stand on it. I wish they would get rid of it because it's patently offensive. And I don't think we really need to explore yanking it back so much as we really need to work with the town to say, look, you need to give this up and stop this nonsense, because it's not like the school district is putting this extra burden on you. You have the burden already to collect the taxes. And by the way, under the law, you have the right to collect the school taxes because you're a town of the first class. So let's just, you're only hurting your own taxpayers anyway. It's not like you're because, it's only for the taxes that are collected in the town of Hyde Park. Poughkeepsie's got got their tax collector, he's not doing that. And then obviously, we're collecting the other 3 towns because, they don't have, because they're not towns of the first class, we are collecting for them. And they're, on the percentage-wise, they're not that big, as Linda had already indicated. So that's my feeling on this. I think we just need to get with them, especially before budget season cranks up for them, as it does about this time of year, probably right after the election. But, they'll be starting, because their budget year is on January 1. We need to really talk about, let's just get rid of this once and for all. It's better for the taxpayers, and, again, because it's, everybody that pays it is actually a citizen of the town of Hyde Park that already is bankrolling the tax collection office through the town, through the town budget, so.
But Kevin, you mentioned that it's their choice, not ours?
Yeah.
They have to give us
Yeah, that's
permission
the
to
law
tax.
is, right, because, because it's, yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
Have we approached the town at all on this issue? Has anyone discussed this with them to ask them to retract that fee?
Yeah, I think we need to go back to them, because it got built into the budget. It was a really tough year, the first year or 2 out.
I think the first year we did go to them.
Yeah, and they were still in pretty rough shape. And I think
Right.
it's time to kind of go back hat in hand and say, look, by the way, they're your constituents too. Really, it's not, and everybody has this notion that, oh, it's the school district doing it. No, they've imposed the tax, and they're just turning around and putting it on the same. It's the taxpayers that pay us, but it's also the taxpayers that pay them. And so it should just, I don't know. It's just, to me, is offensive to have to pay an extra fee. I'm basically paying to pay my bill. Wow, what a privilege that is. I don't have the right to write my check payable to the Hyde Park Central School District. That's not how the taxes are collected, And it's, if there was a way to bypass it, but I don't. And, it's just for the good of all, I think we should try to go back and revisit it with the town administration. They might be amenable to hearing that argument. They walked into a buzzsaw budget the first year, that Aileen took office, and I just, of course, it's just like here, budgets kind of become historical. You just kind of roll them over, and maybe that just kind of got forgotten in the mix. Maybe we want to go back to them and say, look, it'd be really helpful if you could find it in your way to kind of eliminate that fee, and,
So would the board like us to send some kind of meeting or a memo or meet
Yeah, I
with
think
Aileen?
that's-
Or
yeah.
I would be happy to discuss it with Aileen.
Yeah, I would
I think
too.
I'm on the list as one of the
As they formulate their budget,
liaisons with the town.
Yeah.
I don't have to go alone. I'm just offering that as a
Okay.
service to the board.
I think I'm also on it. Maybe we'll go together. You and Steve. Oh, and Dan? If Dan wants to go.
Me 3.
You 3. All right, well, let's work out something, and the 3 of us, if, I certainly can go, I don't know if Dan can, and I think it's reasonable to go.
As long as we get a head nod from the rest of the board.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And now's the time, because they're probably just getting ready to put the budget together for next year.
Okay.
It's obviously too late. I mean, taxes are already paid anyway, but it'd be nice to be able to see that go away. I think it's just really ridiculous.
Okay. So we will make an overture to the town supervisor and try and set up a meeting as soon as we can.
Okay, and thank you, Linda, for gathering the information on our end.
That brings us to the second board discussion on the universal pre-K bus monitors.
And that's Cora.
Okay, Cora's gonna.
Okay. So just as a reminder, several meetings ago, we heard some concerns from staff in the transportation department about the presence or lack thereof of monitors on our UPK buses. And what we shared at the time was that the regulation for our universal pre-K program requires that our children who have not yet turned 4 when they enter our program are required to be in car seats. And as a district decision, when we have a car seat, we put a monitor on that bus so that we're not asking either parents or our drivers to have to put children in their seats, take them out, deal with all of the mechanics of all of that. So this year, we had an unusually high number of little ones who had not yet turned 4 at the start of program. And George really went way, way above and beyond at the final hour before school started to find 13 monitors. We had 13 buses that required monitors because of children in car seats. And so part of the discussion that was brought to the board was whether or not, regardless of car seats, there should be monitors on those buses. And again, as part of the review, I'll share that we have universal pre-K classrooms at Hyde Park Elementary through our colleagues at Abilities First, with whom we contract, and we have classes now at St. Peter's. So we're pretty evenly split. The children that go to Hyde Park Elementary are on universal pre-K buses, so only universal pre-K children are on those buses. At St. Peter's, the children ride with their older peers. So there are children, in all grades on those buses. Right now, every universal pre-K bus has a monitor. And part of the discussion for the board's consideration is what you would like that to look like on a more permanent basis. In response to the need that we had this year, we created 13 positions that were appointed and approved by the board on a temporary basis. Right now, those positions are due to expire November 30th. The reason for that date is that by regulation, all of our universal pre-K children must be 4 by December 1st. Once they turn 4, we're not legally required to have those children in car seats. As you can imagine, once they're in a car seat, the simple fact of a birthday doesn't necessarily make it easy or necessarily make it advisable to take that car seat away. So that's a little bit of a wrinkle. But the current status is that the monitors on those buses are due to have those positions ended at the end of November. We did share with the board 3 different options for consideration. One would be to simply stay with the plan as it is right now, have those positions on the bus until the end of November. The second option would be to have those monitors continue through the rest of the school year at the current contract. And I'm reading now out of order from what you're looking at. So if you're looking at your screens, I'm now talking about option 3. The way the HPUE contract reads, the positions that are there, if they were to remain through the school year, with 5 hours a day and the benefits that go along with those positions, the cost to the district would be $493,926. We have spoken informally with the president of the HPUE about the possibility of entering into an MOA or a memorandum of agreement that would create a new position in the unit specifically for universal pre-K budgets or buses. If we did that, we would need to talk about what those hours are. So if you now move on your proposal to number 2, the initial recommendation was that we could create those positions if the board felt that every UPK bus should have a monitor, create those positions at under the 5-hour structure that's in the current contract. If we did that through the end of the school year, the total cost would be $167,435. George and I have spoken, and I appreciate him being here this evening in case there are questions for him from the board. One of the things that was shared by his staff when they approached the board was the concern about safety. We're talking about very young children, many of whom have never been in any program We talk about the fact that many of our kindergarten children are perhaps as small as our UPK children, but many of them have been in program before. You heard concerns about bus drivers not being able to see the children from their mirrors. We don't want them looking in their mirrors. We want them watching the road. George has been kind of tracking a lot of this and shared that one of the most common concerns is that because they're so little and it's a long day, they're falling asleep on the bus. So that means that, the drivers have an additional responsibility to keep an eye on all of that. So our objective for this evening was to share the data with you around what is currently in place, what it might cost if we were to either continue the current structure with the current contract or create and enter into an MOA with the HPUE. And I'm going to ask Linda, because she's been working with me as well on thinking about how those positions might be at least partially funded with money that is already in the district. So I'll ask Linda to help me out there.
Okay. Currently, we have $61,623 in revenue that we received that was unbudgeted. That was for an aid adjustment from 2005-06 and 2006-07. We received that money already, but we haven't done anything with that. We're hoping that we could use it to apply to the cost of the monitors. And we also have some extra funds in BOCES. This year we are implementing timepiece, but we haven't done that yet. We're a little behind schedule, so BOCES will be prorating the cost to us when we do start, so we'll have additional funds in the business office BOCES code. And we do have some other codes in payroll where we may have a little extra for overtime that it looks like we're not using this year. So there's a few different codes where we may have some money to fund depending on which option the board chooses.
Linda, I didn't hear you. Which was the business office BOCES? What was it?
For timepiece, that's the time
Timepiece,
clocks.
yes.
Yeah, the amount we budgeted was if we had started time clocks right at the beginning of the year.
Yes,
But they don't have the software ready for us yet, so they're going to give us a proration when we do start that.
Perfect, thank you. I didn't hear the timepiece.
Okay.
And then the other consideration, depending on which option the board chooses, would be how we budget for the future. George, correct me if I'm wrong, I think last year we had 3 monitors? Is that correct?
We had 3 last year.
Right, so just based on who enrolls year to year, we went just in 2 years, 3 monitors, 13 monitors. Next year it could be 12. Very difficult to imagine year to year what that might look like. But if we make the commitment this year to have those monitors, I would imagine that would be an ongoing issue that we would just need to think about as we're creating budgets. And then along with that is the fact that we currently have contracts with the Archdiocese for the classes at St. Peter's and with Abilities First for the classes at Hyde Park Elementary. St. Peter's is currently not charged anything for transportation because the district is already providing transportation for the school-age program. Abilities First does not have that advantage. They are billed $7,000 a month for transportation. That does not count the expense of the monitors. So what we're spending right now is at district expense. For this year, whatever we spend, if the board so chooses to do that, I think would continue to be at district expense unless either the Archdiocese or the Abilities First was willing to enter into a revised contract. They've signed contracts, the board has approved them. The contracts for this year do not include the monitors.
And Cora, is it true, though, that the UPK is funded year to year? So is it possible for us to tell them that as the funding comes in, they need to increase the transportation costs? Is that a possibility?
It would be. The way UPK funding works is that we receive a fixed amount per child, and then the agencies need to create their programs based on that amount of money. So again, we have already a situation where there is some inequity in terms of the funding available to them by virtue of one being charged for transportation and one not. So if we add to that a need to budget for transportation inclusive of monitors, we can certainly make that requirement and an expectation for the 16-17 school year's contract. It just means that, they would need to pull money from somewhere else. They won't receive additional funds because there are additional expenses.
Okay, I think this is another case where the state has put together a program and failed to actually understand what it means to have pre-K students on buses. I rode the bus. I was with the children. We need to do something. Not only are they very small, but about halfway through, they lose concentration. They start walking around. That monitor was up and down trying to get them, and they oh look, there's the cat. It's like I just am appalled that the state would come up with a regulation that says children that small, and the kindergartners are equally as small. Because I did 2 runs, and
Kindergartners that are smaller.
That
than
are
some of
smaller.
the PK kids.
It's a safety issue. It's definitely a safety issue, and I think I heard we can afford option 2, and I would really like to enter into maybe more serious negotiations with the HPUE to get that done, because it is an accident waiting to happen. It really is.
I would support that.
Would I?
So that's 3 of us.
I just wanted, if George can refresh me on these runs, how do we come up with the 13 runs? Is it because of location to start with? Where you're picking the kids up?
We came up with the 13 monitors because there was 13 buses where they had to be picked up, where we were picking up on the route. So we had 13 routes where there was a 3-year-old student that required the car seat involved. So it was on 13 different buses. There was 3-year-olds.
So were they just the preschool kids on those buses?
On 4 of them out of the Abilities First, yes. The other buses were St. Peter's buses that had those children on them. And they were already established routes, but
Okay.
the 3-year-olds came into that program.
So there's no extra cost really for those buses? So in other words, those buses didn't have monitors until?
They didn't have monitors, so the cost is the monitors.
I got you, okay.
There's no mileage cost or driver's cost associated to that group.
Okay, thanks.
So, George, don't run away. So we need 13, or we have 13 monitors now on 13 routes.
That is correct.
How many routes do we have that don't have monitors? So what's the potential?
Right now, the 13 covers all the UPK kids. Right now, that's covered.
That's based on what the enrollment is today.
That is correct.
So next year, how many more routes? What's the worst case if every route ended up with a UPK student?
At St. Peter's, we would pretty much be set because we have capacity for more students, so we'd be set there.
Yeah.
The only problem would be maybe at the Abilities First program that I would have to add another bus, which would require the monitor if we choose to go that route.
And George, just to clarify, if we were increasing at HPE, it would be because we had additional classes. Because right now, all of our slots at HPE are filled.
That would be correct.
So that would be dependent on the grant being increased.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I didn't know whether there were other routes. It just worked out that there are some routes that don't have UPK students on them that
No,
might,
both those locations, all those buses have monitors on all those locations.
and there'd be no need to increase the number of buses.
At this time, no, not at St. Peter's. The St. Peter's program, we've got student capacity. If they increased it at the HPE, the class sizes or the grant got increased, so for more students, there's a possibility I'd have to add vehicles there, depending on where they lived and all those logistics.
And I don't anticipate us getting an increase.
Okay.
We were approved for 8 classes last year. We weren't able to fill them because of the time at which we were notified. Initially, we thought we were only going to receive funding for 5 this year. I'm not sure who did the magic at State Ed, but somebody did, and we got the funding for 8. Right now, 7 are full, and we have a small waiting list for the 8th class. So I don't anticipate us having more than 8 classes next year.
Okay. And I see where option 3 is 5 hours per day versus option 2 is 4 hours per day. Is that just to facilitate the need
The health,
for the
health,
run, not?
the health, as you can see, is 300.
Right, we're trying to stay under, but I mean,
Right.
it's not like you can stop in the middle of the run and say, okay, you get your 4 hours and,
Right.
walk home from here and
Right.
you're off the clock.
And there's some
And George
logistics
is
that-
tracking all of the hours right now, and we may need to take another look at that. I've appreciated that he's been looking at every monitor's hours since we put them on the buses. So he and I will be talking about that before we enter into the conversation with the HPUE, and we'll, be looking at that draft together before we bring it to the board.
So I just want to make sure we have support for option 2.
Yep, you've got mine.
Okay.
So I'll more formally approach the HPUE leadership and ask for a meeting to start a draft for your review.
That'd be great. So that brings to second reading of policy.
Oh, I'm sorry, can I just, I hate to back up here, but I've been buzzing over here. It took me
okay.
2 seconds to do this, and this is on UPK. I'm going back one more item. Just another food for thought on the school tax collection, because I just remembered. So it's the budget, right? And then I remember what it was that Nancy had filled me in on. The budget for the entire tax collection office. Linda told you that they collect about $55,000 in fees roughly. Any taxpayer that pays their school taxes late, they keep the late fee. So you add the late fees on top of the school tax collection fee, and they're basically paying for the receiver of taxes to operate the entire office for the whole year, almost on that combination of fees, just from the school tax collection.
Good deal.
So that's something, that you can revisit with them. I knew there was a way that's why we thought it was such a raw deal for us, and now I remember what it was. So I'm done now.
Okay. Back to second reading of the policy 7360, which is construction contract, bids and awards, and 8240, traffic and parking on school property. So I'd like to have a motion to, and do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on those? All in favor? All right, thank you. He said he had somewhere to go at 9 o'clock. Who knows? Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda. May I have a motion for 10.1, the consent agenda, please, as listed in the
So moved.
Second.
Here. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us down to
New business.
new business. May I have a motion for special education placements, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, Dan?
I've reviewed the packet and recommend its adoption as presented.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for the agreement for special education services as listed in the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, just the first individual listed, the terms of the contract, we just want to correct that date because it says retroactively from 10/1/15 through 6/30/15. I assume they meant 6/30/16. Okay, so just make sure that that's corrected for the.
Oh, 16, yeah.
Yep.
Second. Yeah, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for the deputy purchasing agent?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? This is to allow Linda Steinberg to be the deputy purchasing agent. All in favor?
Say thank you for doing it at no additional.
Yeah. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I have a motion to appoint our external auditor.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I just point out that the audit committee had met with a number of external auditors. We are changing to a different company this year, called Marvin and Company. I thought their presentation was spot on. So, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Have the motion to appoint the 3214 alternate hearing officer.
So move.
Second?
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. You have a motion? You have a motion for the memorandum of agreement with CSEA, please.
It's actually HPUE if you read it. So we got to just change that.
Which in the...
Number 6 is actually HPUE. If you open up the document, even though it's what it's titled, it's actually, it's an agreement with the HPUE, not
Yes.
the CSEA.
Yep.
Oh, got it.
I'll change that.
So we
Okay.
know what we're
We'll
voting on.
clean that up. Do we vote yet, or? No.
I didn't even get a motion or anything.
Okay. Have a motion for that one?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion other than it's already been pointed out? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And I have a motion for the second memorandum MOA with CSEA.
So move.
Second?
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. At this time, we're back to public participation. May I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? If anybody would like to, once again, speak to the board or speak anew? Over there? Nobody? May I have a motion to return to regular session?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We have no other matters deemed necessary by the board to discuss.
Doug, I have
Oh, maybe we do.
one. I have just
Maybe
one
we
thought.
do.
Maybe this is the appropriate place or not.
Okay.
And I was thinking with the addition of Garrett, or the student board member, I'd like to find where we could carve or create a line in the agenda where Garrett could bring to us those things that perhaps he sees and knows of going on in the district, that, and some of it may just be an updating, what's going on with student government, what's going on with other activities in the school. To me, I would find it valuable to get a little more information as to what's going on in the buildings.
I haven't done that. We've been talking about
Okay.
what to do. A, it's new. B, I didn't want to embarrass a student who didn't have anything to say that night to have an item on the board and have to feel the pressure that, oh my God, I got to say something. I would like him, I was thinking in terms of him being able to, in this case Garrett, to be able to call the clerk and say, I've got something I would really like to talk about over in the next meeting. So he's fully prepared kind of thing to do this. If that becomes a monthly item, a meeting item, then we could put something on. I hadn't had a chance to ask Garrett whether he felt comfortable that we put that on each and every board agenda. So.
Well, one thing I could certainly say is that I would really embrace the opportunity to be able to possibly make a continuation of the Pride segment. I think there's a lot in a 2-week segment that we can really talk about the things that we can really be proud of. I think we can certainly expand upon that segment. So maybe each Pride segment I can supplement anything that you say with some additional remarks. And then if there's anything above and beyond the additional Pride comments, then perhaps what you were mentioning then, and I go through Mrs. Brosen here, about any additional things beyond the supplemental Pride comments.
Okay, you do know that every board member has the opportunity to add to the Pride stuff, if you add something to Pride, anytime that, so we don't have to make that a formal student Pride thing. So when Pride comes up, and I say, is there any other Pride, just jump right in. Then that would be,
okay.
And that way, if you had something to talk about, that's fine. If you didn't, that's fine too.
Okay, and if you're looking for something, I don't know if this is the type of thing that would be of interest to the board, whereas, I mean, the student government itself in a 2-week segment, there's plenty of things that I could talk about, but I mean, those aren't necessarily, I guess, all that relative to the bigger picture of the district, of the in and out, the daily events that the student government is doing. I don't know if that would be something that would be worthwhile adding into a more formal segment of the agenda.
I would be happy to get a short overview of student life and those things that are going on in the district. Absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll work on how we're going to put that in, whether it's in the agenda or whether it's in a different section. But I want you to feel comfortable with this. This is all new, so that you don't feel like, oh my God, I gotta.
Well, I really appreciate the consideration that you've extended.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy to share a portion of my Pride report. So, for example, the athletic director, I certainly go to many events, but I also get an email from the athletic director so that I can give the athletic update. I'd be more than happy to actually just say, hey, it's the same information. I'm just reading off what I get in addition to what I personally have seen. So I'd be really happy to share that and let you take some of that. And certainly you're at so many of the events, we could even coordinate. So if it's something like the Harvest Pops concert or anything that you're at, I'd be more than happy to turn that over so that they hear it from a student voice during Pride versus mine. That'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, great.
It's like a road show.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah, as long as it's coordinated.
No, that's great.
All right. That brings us to board subcommittee reports. There was a tech committee meeting I was unable to attend, so Dan, you got any?
The board did meet, Cora reviewed the needs for this committee's report in the time frame and what information has to be there. They started on a guideline document, which is available to all the committee members on Google Docs. And we have a meeting scheduled next in November.
Nobody's, all the other tech people are gone. Cora went home sick.
So that it is progressing, and it is a requirement that we get it done because we've got that money that we want to spend.
That's right. All right. If you want to spend the money, you gotta fill in the
What's
form.
interesting is, and I'll just comment here because I'll comment at the meeting, what was pointed out is we can use the money to buy items. hardware and stuff
But
like
not-
that, but we can't use it for
Professional
training
development.
of professional development. And there's an article in this latest issue of the
On board.
BOE onboard
yeah.
dealing with the same subject, and one of the things they pointed out was that in programs that have not gotten as much out of it as they thought they would, one of the first things they determined was that there wasn't enough professional development for
yeah, I know.
for the teachers.
Chicken and egg there, right? There was a...
Kids and the kids in the safety seats, yeah, the same thinking.
Well, there was a policy meeting, and we discussed items with Aviva for consideration coming up, right? At the next meeting. Any other meetings?
Yeah, we had the, Perry, I was going to turn it over to you. Go Team 5. We did have, the district leadership team had their coherence planning meeting. Doug was at the ceremony for Debbie. Jeff was with us that night, but he's not here, so that leaves Perry and I. It was a very productive meeting. We reviewed some of the processes where we were in space and time in our planning model. We looked at some ways to organize ourselves around what we would measure, whether it's the 4 C's, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Oh, Aviva was there too. Yeah, I could just chime in anytime.
You're too far in now to back out.
I know. They're just letting me go here, right? But we did break into subcommittees to get the work done in between this meeting and the next meeting. And I'd also like to acknowledge Melissa is with us on the team. Roger Gill is with us for strategic planning. So we did break up into 5 subcommittees. I'm on the external factors committee. Perry's there with me. We already met once and got a lot of stuff down on paper so that we're ready for the November 12th meeting. Aviva, what's your team?
Goal setting, and I have 2 out of 3 of the students on my team, and one of the students volunteered to be our leader.
Oh my
Which is
God.
wonderful. It was very exciting.
That's great. So we're moving along, and they've been productive meetings. We had a real healthy dialogue. It was at the beginning of the meeting. It was a little bit of a crossroads because in order to go in the direction that we're looking at with coherence planning, there has to be a little bit of a commitment that we're going to have to say we will be in compliance with the state education department, but we're going to let go of the intensity with which we fulfill that compliance in order to go in a direction that is much more meaningful for what students need to be prepared. And where we landed was, we did an exercise previously where what do students need to be prepared? And it's really things like critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity. And so it was actually a very freeing moment to say, well, you can't scrap the compliance and you can't let go of everything. But it was a real shift in thinking to say, maybe we should worry less about compliance because it's leading us down a road of standardization and assessments, and talk about the real skills that every piece of research says that students need to be prepared. And our student voices were very significant in that meeting. Our representation from staff all comes from union representation, and it was great to see the union representation across the board saying, we're with you as long as you're committed to saying that it's okay to go in that direction. And it was a great meeting. So.
Yeah, I think I would add, I don't know that I would say I was a skeptic, but I've certainly been a little reserved in the process. And I think the facilitator's done a great job of of building consensus and kind of keeping us going all in the right direction. And to the point you were bringing up is that it's, what I'm really getting from it is we really just need to be doing the right thing. You know, if we're doing the right thing, you know, and we know all too often, I think we know what the right thing is, but we get encumbered by all the regulations by the state. I mean, the state gets in our way of doing what we really need to be doing. And it's kind of a refocus and going back and look and saying, okay, you can't do everything well. You can't even necessarily do everything the state wants you to do well. But let's do the things that we know. Let's do the core things that we know that we really need to do for our students. Do them well, and the other stuff will come along with it. And at in the same point, how can anybody criticize? You know, if the students are doing well, it's pretty tough to be critical of a system that really gets back to doing what we're supposed to be doing, and that's educating students and preparing them for the real world. So I'm looking forward to it. It's
Great. Okay, upcoming meetings and events. Tuesday, November 3rd is No School for Students. It's Teacher Training Day. Wednesday, November 11th is No School. It's Veterans Day. And I kind of wish we still did the Veterans lunch over at the middle school. That was a very nice event for the veterans, but. And the next school board meeting is at 7 o'clock. It's at Netherwood Elementary School, and it's on November 12th, 2015. There's no need for an second executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
so moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that? Nobody wants to, no? All in favor?
Arm wrestle you for it.
Thank you.